Sarah. Sarah
Hi.
Hatch Properties. So you're licensed. Where are you licensed, Sarah?
In Virginia, Maryland, and DC.
My goodness. So we've always heard that Virginia is the most landlord-friendly state. Is that still the case?
Yes.
Okay. So I thought what we do today is, first of all, we'll go through like securing the tenant, looking, what do you look for on an application? How do you screen the tenants? Things of that nature. Then we'll talk about property maintenance and managing the physical structure and the ongoing maintenance. Then there were a lot of changes that went into effect July 1st, 2020 last year. If you can give us a breakdown on some of those changes. And then lastly, we'll talk about the eviction process and any eviction moratoriums that might still be in place in Virginia, like that. So what kind of things do you look for on a rental application when you're selecting tenants for somebody?
Sure. So when we screen the applicants, we have to make sure, first of all, that it's all inclusive, that the tenants didn't forget to fill out any part of the application, that it's in full, that they have their proof of income verification, that they have their identification so that we can verify they are over 18. After we make sure that they are in, complete applications, we will verify their income. So just make sure that the amount of income actually is income qualifying for the property.
Do you use like 35 times the rent or 40 times the rent, or what do you use?
Sure, great question. So usually 40 times the rent would be someone who it has their utilities, that they have to pay. What we use is 3 times the annual rent. So your income has to be 3 times the annual rent. So monthly rent times 12 times 3 is what we use.
Do you require everybody over 18 to do the credit check?
Absolutely. No exception.
What about like college students and grandmas?
So unless somebody has a power of attorney or is deemed to not be able to sign a lease, then no. But everybody else has to apply separately.
Okay. So we were just talking about this before everybody else came on, the number of people. Let's say there's a family with 7 people for a townhouse, a regular 2,100 square foot townhouse in Northern Virginia. I know a lot of landlords would be a little hesitant to have 7 people come into their property.
So yeah, like a typical 3-bedroom townhouse in Northern Virginia. So they changed the laws last year in order to accommodate for people who have small children, or just maybe they're taking care of a family member. But they actually changed the laws that is per bedroom. If you have a bedroom that is actually 150 square feet or more.
10 by 15, the master bedroom size.
Exactly. You can have 3 people in that bedroom. So
what about a 9 by 9 bed? Well, let's go into like a 6 by 8 and a little 3-bedroom in Alexandria, Arlington. The 3rd bedroom is 6 by 8.
One person.
8 square feet.
Oh no, it has to be 70 square feet or more.
So what are they doing with tiny little bedrooms?
They're not bedrooms.
So the old adage of a window, a door, and a closet.
No, no more. It's a door. It's a door, window, or a second means of egress. You don't even have to have a closet anymore in the calculation, but it has to be 70 square feet or more
to be a bedroom.
Yep.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yep.
Because we were talking how I had heard it was 2 people per bedroom, and then in DC it's 2 people per bedroom plus 1 in the living room.
Oh, really?
That's what I heard from somebody.
Yeah, we just count by bedrooms, bedroom space. Yeah.
How do you find that credit scores correlate with paying rent on time? Because I know a lot of landlords really want a high credit score.
Okay, so I say that like our company doesn't have any kind of minimums for credit scores, and the reason why is because I believe that if you have no debt, you are also more likely to pay your rent, right? If you have no other money obligations. So a lot of times people who have no debt, their credit score goes down. So we look at everybody as an individual, and with the credit scores, I do believe strongly that they correlate with being able to pay your rent on time. There is a huge correlation between, there's a difference between somebody who has an, 800 plus credit score and somebody who has a low 600s credit score. Somebody who has like a lower 600 credit score would tend to be late from time to time throughout the year. Not to say that they wouldn't, but the risk involved in on-time payments is higher with a lower credit score.
Okay. How about pets? Well, tell us a little bit about service pets and service animals.
That's a big topic right now.
Yeah.
So yeah. Unfortunately, a landlord, and I get asked this a lot, if somebody has an emotional support animal or a service animal in the state of Virginia, and you have documentation and doctors notes that say there's a direct need for that specific person, then you can't say no, and you can't really even prescribe what type of pet they get.
Do they have to pay dog pet deposits and pet rent for service pets?
They cannot. It's against the law to charge for pet rent or deposits for a service or emotional support animal.
Oh, okay.
But they are, in fact, required to sign an addendum. So there's a separate addendum for service animals and emotional support animals. And it still says that the owner of the pet, so the tenant, is fully responsible for any damages that they do make to the property.
Okay. So let's go a little bit now into property management and property maintenance.
Mm-hmm.
Well, let's start with the check-in. This is something that you and I bonded,
mm-hmm.
that a lot of landlords overlook this process
mm-hmm.
of checking in the tenant. Tell us a little bit about the check-in, because this is something that landlords with 1 or 2 properties sometimes don't focus on.
So you mean the move-in inspection?
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember that one on our last one.
Yeah, we had quite a long list.
Yeah.
Well, for example, the handrails all around the deck were, in my mind, dangerous,
mm-hmm.
Quite splintered,
mm-hmm.
etc.
Mm-hmm.
And I wouldn't have liked it if I was moving
mm-hmm.
in.
Mm-hmm. Right. So we make sure that when we do the move-in checklist, we don't do it with, actually, I should say, we don't just hand the tenant the list and say, here, fill it out. We actually go through the property and write up the list, and then they can add to it. They have 5 days to return the move-in checklist, and then we get the repairs done for the items that are required. Some of them are just noted, like a nick on the wall or a nick on the floor. Those things are just noted items, but that the tenant doesn't want to be responsible for upon move out. But yes, you should be checking on the property regularly, and especially at move out, doing very detailed inspections, opening every drawer, opening every cabinet, checking every faucet for leaks. There are many times where a tenant does not report maintenance, and then you find that whenever they move out, especially if it was a long-term tenant. Long-term tenants tend to be okay with, like, oh, they just kind of get used to the fact that shower head leaks whenever you turn it on. Well, that's not normal. That there might be something more to that, and a reason why that's happening that we need to investigate. But I would say be as detailed as possible on those move-in inspections. Take pictures of every room. I once had a house where the oven, when the tenant moved out, the inside of the oven was scratched really, really, really bad. And it's very odd. It didn't look like it was from somebody scrubbing it. It almost looked like a chemical reaction happened in the base of it, and it just ate away at at the entire covering, coating of the bottom.
My husband found some, those old oven cleaners shouldn't be used in like 9/10 of new ovens. Any self-cleaning oven should not be used with easy off.
Right. Yeah. Right. Exactly. So I think that might've been what happened, but anyways, there was a big dispute when the tenant moved out. That, they're like, I don't know how this happened. And the owner says, well, I know it wasn't like that before I gave it to you. And so there was this battle. Well, did anybody take a picture of the inside of the oven before moving? Did anybody have a picture? Things like that. Photographs will save the day in court for you. If you have visual proof, even if it's a video that you take of, spanning the room, or doing the new thing is
opening each drawer in the kitchen. I noticed that you said that because kitchens are all the properties are getting older, right? So I've noticed that. We were talking a little bit about the NVAR lease, the lease that I actually now, as realtors, our rental listing agreement requires that we use the VRLTA lease. Which is so that's going to be compliant with Virginia law. But part of it, the lease that we're using, puts the responsibility for gutter cleaning and tub caulking on the tenants. Can you talk to us about that?
Absolutely. So anything that's listed in the tenant obligation section of the VRLTA lease, we make sure that the tenants are doing by our regular property inspections. So we have annual home inspections that we do by a licensed home inspector, and they know all of the things that we catch, that we ask for. We have them look for unregistered pets and that kind of a thing. If it comes up that there is something on the tenant obligations page of their lease that comes up on the home inspection, we make sure that they do it, or we hire a contractor and then the tenant ends up paying for it.
Oh, okay. So you do an annual inspection?
Yeah.
A home inspector goes through and checks all the outlets?
So he does do spot checking of the outlets. Absolutely. All the GFCIs get checked. He doesn't check for the temperature in the refrigerator. Okay. Unless there's an issue on the roof, he doesn't go into the attic, okay. But he does do a full home inspection.
We're often seeing holes in screens at turnovers.
That's a big one. Yes, the tenants are responsible for any damage to the screens.
Okay.
Yeah, it's really easy to do, actually. They have screen kits at Home Depot that a tenant can easily repair the screen themselves.
Can do. I think two different places. So you and I were involved in, the tenant had been in there 7 years and they were a good tenant. So I think a lot of tenants are surprised when they get hit up, not only with the carpet cleaning at the end, but with the chimney cleaning, the gutter cleaning, the all of those cleanings are specified in the lease that we use. And if somebody's only been there a year, it's
I know, and they still have to have the same requirement. Exactly. They have to clean. All of those things need to be done by a professional. I know. So gutter cleaning is one of the things that I get questioned on a lot. Obviously, if you're in a condominium building, that wouldn't apply. But if you are in a single family home, I tell my tenants, I'm like, well, I'm not getting on a ladder in order to verify that it was done. So you need to hire a professional. You can't do it yourself. Unfortunately, you have to hire a professional. I have to have the receipt that it was done, because I'm not climbing up a ladder to double check that. Now, if I see sticks hanging out or whatever, they obviously didn't do it. A lot of times they have gutter guards, and tenants think that because there's gutter guards that there's no need for cleaning. That is not true. You should still, in some gutter guard systems, there is a way that you can lift them and clean the debris that's in there, because a lot of times you get moss buildup, and that also stops the flow of water going down your downspouts. So different things like that. It should be cleaned upon turnover. So
the other thing that I talk to about tenants, get my prepositions correct here, when they're moving in is, draining the hose bibs, being away from the property. Tell us a little bit about that. Sure.
So tenants are also responsible for winterizing their home. So one of the biggest things is the hose bibs. You hear about it all the time, where you have long cold snap of a week or more in Northern Virginia, and pipes burst and all of that kind of thing. We actually send out like videos to all of our tenants at that time of year saying, okay, here's how you do it. Here's the tutorial step by step of how to drain your hose bibs and winterize them. Some tenants are more handy than others. Some don't want to take the risk of doing it. So since they're responsible, we can send somebody out to do it, but the fee for the maintenance man going to the property would be on the tenant. If they wanted to have us do it, we would still accommodate that because it protects the home. That's the most important thing is protecting the home from any kind of damage. But anyways, yeah, that's definitely something that is tenant responsibility, along with changing the filters every 2 months.
Yeah, so the filters, I had landlords do it different ways. Some landlords like to leave a stack of filters in the unit so that the tenant doesn't have any, doesn't forget to get to it, and that their equipment is protected. And then I've had others, I had an HVAC guy tell me that, he would be asked to go clean all the furnaces every springtime and check and see if extra people are living in the house. I mean,
so yeah, some people do it differently. I will tell you that there's a company called Second Nature that is out right now. Second Nature is a filter delivery product that you can actually brand it like for PM companies like myself, where setting a bunch of filters down by the HVAC system isn't a constant reminder that you need to have them done, right?
Oh.
When you get them delivered to your house every other month, right, then the tenant gets more in the habit, right? So the filters that are delivered every month are, when you use companies like Second Nature, they are actually paid for by the tenant. So you add a fee to the monthly rent for the cost of that, because they're going to have to pay for it anyways. And it's only a few bucks more for shipping. And so anyways, they get them, and then they get in the habit. They see it. They're like, oh, it showed up on my doorstep, and they're more likely to change the filter at that time. So
how do you, I was just involved secondhand, thank God, about a tenant had moved in, and then within 3 days, the toilets were backed up, and she was charged for snaking the toilets. I just told the landlord, I said, I really don't think she clogged the toilets in the first few days. Yeah,
so good question about that, Karrina. So anything that happens within the first 60 days of tenancy, like especially if landlords have a repair deductible that's in their lease that their tenant is or they want their tenant to pay, if they have that repair deductible, I always say to and I just see that somebody's pulling up to my house right now. I might have to answer the door in just a second, but anyways, if they see, where was I? Now I need to.
So we're talking about repair deductibles and things that happen at the beginning. That's the clogged toilet at the beginning of the lease.
So what I always say to, and I encourage in my homeowners and landlords to do, is to wait to disperse the funds of the security deposit until you absolutely have to. You have 45 days in Virginia. If you'll excuse me for just one moment, Karrina, hold on.
Sure. Okay.
Thank you.
Welcome, Abraham. Nice to see you here. Hi, Sharita. Nice to see you. I think Richard's watching and then doing some other things too. So this is Sarah Hatch. She has Hatch Properties, and she's telling us right now we're on the property management and maintenance section of our discussion here. Hi, Sarah.
Thank you so much for that moment. So yeah, I always make sure that the landlord knows that we want to wait as long as possible in order for you to give the security deposit back. There's a lot of landlords who are like, oh, like they get pressed by their tenant, especially if they're self-managing. They get really pressed by their tenant to feel the need to like return their security deposit earlier than legally you need to. My thought in that is to say, for things like that, you have a new tenant move in and then there's like a backup. Well, that didn't happen from that one tenant unless you can pull something back that says, you know, that it was that tenant's, like, so their child, you know, flushed something down
toy in the
toilet. Yeah. I mean, it just depends, but if there is no proof at all, you can't open these right now. Okay. If there is no proof at all, like nothing that they can clean up, and it was just a serious backup of sewage, then that would be on the previous tenant, and you can charge their security deposit for it.
Okay. Let's talk a little bit about some of these changes that July 1st, 2020, the landlord tenant rules in Virginia were overhauled, and I think we have a few more rules now than we used. Well, I know we do. We have more rules now than we used to. We're still not as onerous as Maryland or DC. But can you tell us about some of the new Virginia landlord tenant rules that went into place July 1st, 2020?
Sure. So one of the biggest that people had questions on were the source of income discrimination that was added to the fair housing laws of Virginia. So just like Maryland and DC, you can't discriminate based on source of income. You basically can't say no to someone who has Section 8, especially if you're a landlord that has 4 or more properties. If you have 3 or less properties in Virginia, you can still say no to Section 8, but the requirement is that you know, somebody can apply, and if their credit and income and criminal background or whatever you use to screen is approvable, then you will have to move forward with that application, you know, for Section 8. If you know what I mean. You obviously want the best applicant, so it just depends. You just can't have the fact that they are Section 8 tenant be a determining factor.
And then so we have a maximum 2-month security deposit law in Virginia. I guess I thought that was new. You're telling me that's always been in place.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. How does that work with pet deposits? Can you do 2 months plus a pet deposit?
No, actually. And in DC, especially in DC, like you can only have 1 month of deposit total. So, but in the state of Virginia, you can only have max 2 months deposits, all inclusive of pet and security. So if you are trying to have a house, you know, $2,000 a month in rent, and you have 4 pets in the house, you can't charge more than, you know, $500 per pet, basically. You know, that would be the max. And if you have somebody with questionable, you know, credit rating, and you want to try to charge more for the security deposit, you cannot charge 2 months of security deposit and pet deposit both.
What about the last month's rent or prepaid rent? Is that dealt with separately or the same as security deposit?
So I personally don't do that. I don't collect last month's rent. Unfortunately, I like to only have in the account what is currently due. I have an operating account and an escrow account. Any prepaid rent has to go in the escrow account. And then to me, it's a little bit of an accounting admin task to be, you know, accounting task to be moving money back and forth between that account every month. So I just don't do it.
Okay. Well, you and I know we both take lots and lots of classes on fair housing. Can you tell some of our attendants some of the main points of the fair housing rules that they should look out for?
Sure. So in Virginia, the fair housing rules are, well, actually the national ones are, you know, race, color, religion, national origin. Goodness, there's 7 protected classes, right? And then Virginia added another like 3 or 4 to theirs.
Well, I think the one that we've had a lot of go around recently is the familial status.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Can you talk to us about that?
So yeah, that's a big one as far as like, you know,
families and roommates and extended
yeah.
families and.
So roommates aren't a protected class, right? Like, and people ask me a lot. They're like, "Oh, I want a military family," and I'm like, "Well, I mean, I can say that I can't. I don't necessarily want to, as a professional in the industry, say that I want a military tenant. But can I discriminate on job? You know, on like who their employer is? There's not. you know, there's not really a protected class per se for
employer.
job, for employer. But I will say that there's a lot of my homeowners who are like, well, I don't want pets. They do, and you can discriminate on pets. You just can't discriminate based on if it's an emotional support or service animal.
Okay.
You can't say no. But long story short, if you have, you know, I've had some that are like, I don't want like 6 children in a house, and I'm like, you can't say that. you can't just eliminate an application because of the size of their family, you know.
My out-of-state tenants get landlords are surprised by our registered agent rule on the landlord-tenant act. But I just tell them you have to have somebody in state that can be served by a sheriff, basically.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, there's lots of registered agents in the state that you can pay a flat fee for the year and they'll receive your mail. Also, attorneys will do that for some of their clients. Also, property management companies like myself can be the registered agent for our clients.
So next I wanted to talk a little bit about evictions, the eviction process, how that goes down, and then if there are any moratoriums still in place in Virginia.
So yeah, as far as the eviction moratorium, you couldn't evict based on, financial hardship. If the tenant is breaking laws and it's more of a criminal act, you can definitely still evict them in Virginia. But right now, I know that things are easing. The moratorium in Virginia, I need to double check the recent rule, but I do think that it ended in March. That has a March ending. Whether that will be extended or not, or how long, is to be determined. I don't know.
Okay. All right. So then let's get the plug for Hatch Properties here. Tell us why people should use professional property management, and if you have a fixed fee or how the fees go, and advantages to using a property manager.
Sure. So I know that I'm not the only company in Northern Virginia that does property management. There's many others. There's big and small companies. So it depends on what suits, you as a investor and as a homeowner. Are you a high touch sort of an investor where you want constant contact? Or are you you want to just basically know when the house is on fire kind of an investor? So there's varying degrees of how much, time and attention that a company can pay to your investment property. And a lot of that depends on, does your company have, does the PM company have like individual property managers dedicated to your house? There's 2 different ways that a company can manage, whether it's departmental or if it's, you have a single PM that does everything, for your property, leasing, maintenance, lease renewals, all that kind of stuff. But so anyways, you have to kind of ask yourself what works for you. There's a lot of landlords who I interview with, and I'm like, well, I don't think that we would be cut out to be, good friends throughout this process, just because our personalities, they might want more than what I know my company can supply, or they just are not, the personality fit. So you want to make sure that you have a personality fit for your needs as an investor. So anyways, I know that it all also has to do with trust. Do you trust the person that is managing your property? Do you know that they're following all the laws and that they're updated on all the state laws, because they change so regularly? Just like last July when, they have the tenants' rights to do maintenance, you want to make sure that your landlord knows about all those laws so that you aren't sued because you hired a property manager who wasn't, up to date on those things, or if they're holding more security deposit than they should, or not distributing, you want to make sure that they are, up to date on all those things. As far as Hatch Property Management, this is a company that I've started. I have 21 years of experience in the property management industry. And I've always wanted to own my own company, even when I was in multifamily and commercial property management. As far as my background is concerned, I've also done HOA management. And so it's always been something that I've wanted to do. And I've been a broker in, all 3 jurisdictions, learning about the different rules and laws. And I think the most of the thing that I find interesting is that when I talk to other PMs, some other ones, they're really burned out. They have like a little, they're like very angry all the time.
People ask me to do property management, and I like to refer it away. I prefer the creative process of, contracts, etc., rather than, getting somebody. Well, right now I'm managing a refrigerator repair. And what am I managing? I've got a refrigerator repair going on. We have a patio door handle repair.
It's those little things. Yeah. So it kind of weighs on you, especially when you have like the frustration of the tenant and sometimes the frustration of the landlord, or how they need to understand that they have certain obligations to repair the property. And it's not just always tenant damage. You can't just pass it along to the tenant every time. So anyway,
that's a big one for me. A friend of mine wants me to manage his properties, and he likes to maintain and upkeep his properties.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't like being in the middle when somebody's trying to put everything up on the tenant. And I'm like, it got old, your refrigerator doesn't work anymore. It's old.
Yeah, absolutely. And so yeah, as far as our fees go, we have military discounts too. So, where a typical PM in this area would charge anywhere from, 8 to 10% of the monthly rent, we charge 7% for our military members. Everybody else, we charge 8%. And then we have leasing commissions. We also give the option of the landlord to be able to find their own tenant. So we have discounts for that. That's a little tricky sometimes, because then you have to watch, and I always give my own landlords who want to find their own tenant, I give them, a couple of hard, fast rules about when I'm okay with that and when I'm not, because there's a specific division.
Oops. We're losing you again. You have a weak
Just give it a second.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes,
sorry about that. Now. Okay.
Yeah, back to that fair housing stuff, right?
Yeah, exactly. like, please, you're better off letting me handle how to speak to and how to deliver the messages to the tenant, because a lot of times they get themselves in trouble. I've had a couple of landlords who want to do like their own move out inspection, because they were the ones who moved out of the property, and they want eyes and ears on their own property, and declaring to the tenant in person, oh, you're going to get all your security deposit back, where just like our previous conversation, like the new tenant moves in, and guess what, they've uncovered a ton of different things that were not called in by the previous tenant and they're responsible for. And so tenant gets upset that they're not getting all of their security deposit like the owner promised. And I'm like, you should have never promised that. So anyways, just having that delineation at the time of the application, once the lease is signed, don't talk, let us handle the management of your property and all of their questions.
Actually, Abraham's with us right now, and I leased his property. Richard and I leased his property for him a couple of months ago, and now the tenants have brought a dog in. How would you handle that?
So now in the lease, it says, in the VRLTA lease, it says whether or not you'll allow pets. Okay. No pets. If it says no pets, it also says that if the pet is brought into the house, that it is a violation of the lease, right? You can take them to court if they don't want to put the pet on the lease and pay the applicable deposits. It's a violation. So, especially, people like to hide aggressive breed dogs because they know that a lot of companies don't allow them. With an aggressive breed dog, the likelihood of them actually being approved. And so they try to keep them under the radar. And then you have the neighbors calling for barking. And then you yourself as a landlord are liable if that dog harms another individual. I mean, can you imagine the court case that, where that animal, and you knew about it? You have to act. If you know about an unregistered dog, you have to act right away as a landlord. Otherwise, you yourself are going to be fully liable.
Okay. So, hi, this is Sharita. Can I ask a quick question?
Yes, Sharita, please.
So what if there is a clause that there's no pets allowed and they bring in a pet? Because you said that, they would have to pay the pet fee, but what if the landlord said no pets and they still bring one in?
What I would recommend is that you start the process of a 2130. So a 2130, give that notice to the tenant saying you have 21 days to cure, which means getting a dog approved and deposit paid and addendum signed.
Right.
And then if not, then you have the ability to go to court and evict them based on a breach of lease.
Okay. And then you also
it's called 2130 now. It used to be 5-day pay or quit. Is that?
No. So 5-day pay or quit only has to do with rent. Any other violation in the lease is a 2130.
Okay.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
And actually, because of COVID, it's actually changed to 14 days.
Oh,
in Virginia.
And is that like COVID timeframe, or is it just
14 days? 14 days is the COVID timeframe. They had that law set when COVID happened, so it changed.
You also mentioned something about occupancy. So you're saying that if there's a family of 6, you can't say, oh, there's too many people in the house, because I thought, like, depending on the number of bedrooms, you're only allowed, there were occupancy laws. Like if there's a 2-bedroom condo, like you can only have 4 people in that condo. Is that not?
They changed that in July to where you can, you have to actually measure the bedrooms. Sharita, you have to measure the bedrooms, and if you have a bedroom that is 150 square feet or more,
right,
you can have 3 people in that bedroom.
Are you kidding? Wow,
so you have to actually measure the bedroom.
Okay.
Now that's not total house square footage. That's a bedroom.
How about smoking? I know smoking's not a protected class.
Yeah.
I haven't seen anybody tell me that they smoked in years.
But what about medical marijuana?
Yeah, that's a good topic. Let's hear about that one. Are you getting any? If a landlord finds that the tenants are smoking marijuana in his property,
that's smoking.
Oh, they're smoking. Oh, they're smoking.
It's smoking, and if it's a non-smoking house, then again you can do the 2130.
Okay.
But what if it's medical?
So therein you should get an attorney to answer that question, because I don't know how that will go. I personally haven't lived that experience.
Okay. Well, I can tell you that being at Watergate, that apparently they are protected, because there is a gentleman on my floor, and I swear if I wanted to get high, all I need to do is just go stand by his door. And I've called, and the security guard just kind of laughs, because I know he's filtering what he can say. So it's medical, and they can't do anything about it. So
I'm seeing more and more of the condo buildings putting up rules. I think we're in a period of flux with the medical marijuana. Medical,
right?
What is it? I think Virginia's legal for medical, and who knows what it'll be next year. But the condo buildings, as I go building to building, I'm seeing them posting things up in the elevator about, smoking on your balcony, smoking in the hallways, etc. That they're kind of clamping down on smoking in general. So the condo buildings seem to be putting a emphasis on if you want to smoke inside your own house, which is contrary to the property manager. If we're managing for a condo owner, we're telling them you can't smoke in the house, go outside. So that's, well, we'll have to learn to talk about that in a couple of years.
Yeah, that's kind of a like Karrina says, it's kind of in flux right now with the new laws.
Right.
And so that's one of those things where I'm like, I would consult an attorney on that.
Okay.
Does anybody else have any questions? No. Well, thank you for joining us this morning, Sarah.
Yeah, thank you.
Cindy will be she's going to take the video and, you know, shorten it so that it's nice and concise for people.